Back. We are back, and we're going to talk a little bit about two teams, BU Providence, or two games, BU Providence, UNC, or UMBC, UNC. Holy smokes. Hang in there, Rye. But basically, BU Providence, local little rivalry. You got Boston, you got Providence. AT, talk to me a little bit about Providence in 2016 leading up to their first game of the season.
Yeah. Providence, they're coming off a overall record 7-9 in 2016, 1-4 in the Big East. They go into 2017 in the also receiving votes category, which isn't bad. It's sort of the unofficial teams ranked 21 to whatever, 30, 20. Something like that.
Oh, so they go up to 30 now?
It's everybody that's in the also receiving votes that's not the top 20. So sort of the best outside of the top 20. And you can look at their team. There's a team that came off. They scored a little over 9.5 goals a game in 2016, shooting 30%. They do lose their leading scorer from last year in stud Will Mazzone. He was the Army transfer who ended up, I think playing his last 2 years at PC, but was a very, very good player in high school and was very good at Army, and then ended up transferring to PC and having a great career there. So, but they lose him, but they do return attackman Brendan Kearns, 22 goals, 18 assists. Midfielder Keenan Asaraf, 20 goals and 3 assists. 20 goals, good number for a midfielder, especially returning midfielder.
Absolutely.
And midfielder Joe McHale at 5 goals and 15 assists. And in order to get that amount of assists out of a midfielder, bodes well for them as they sort of look to find a new playmaker on the offensive end. Their defense, letting up just under 11 goals a game, but they return all 3 starters. Jared Newman, stud, probably their best overall player. And their best defenseman, Jared Barkley, Jimmy Cunningham. Again, these guys started all year last year. And in the goal, Tate Boyce, who, in my opinion, was arguably the best freshman goaler, pretty close. One of the very, very best goaltenders in the country in his class, and I think in all of college across after this season is over. Saved the ball 53% of the time, let up 10.7 goals a game, but is a great athlete, throws great outlets, and again, I think that's going to be a noticeable strength for Providence this year. You look at their face-off act. To me, that's the question for this team. They do return Colin McKendry, who won 46% of his draws last year, but they were just 40% as a team, and to me, that's the biggest concern is who is Providence going to be at the face-off X, and if they can find an answer there, I think that they're going to be better in 2017 than they were last year, but that's to be determined. So special situations, man up, they scored basically 30% of the time. Man down defense was successful 66% of the time. Again, this team needs to win face-offs.
Absolutely. And if you're going up against BU, you've got to win faceoffs, and it's not an easy task. No. BU looking off. I mean, look, you've got a program now that finally has leadership. They've got, upperclassmen, and upperclassmen that have had significant impact from day one in a program that's brand new. And that is powerful, especially what Ryan Pulley has done to this point. In his career in Boston. If you look at the lineup, they've got everyone coming back. Cal Dirth, who, by the way, have you seen his mullet? It's incredible. You got Mikey Schlosser and Cal Dirth with the greatest mullet mustache combos. Darth has got a little more bushier eyebrows, which kind of pulls it off a little bit better. Mikey Schlosser has got the personality. Of course, I've never met Cal, but you got 28 points coming back. You've got Jack Wilson coming back. You got Ryan Hilburn. That together, let me add them all up. I'm not very good. 60, 70, 80 points right there between the three. That's important. And you got Elliot Burr rounding out that what's supposedly probably going to be the attack. So you got Hilburn, Wilson, and Burr, which is pretty neat. And then you've got everyone obviously coming back in the midlines too. You've got Homar. You've got Ruiz, McLean, Darth. You've got everyone in your program for the third straight year playing together, which was a luxury that I had when I was at Michigan, and it's a luxury that Richmond has had, the luxury that Amplo is going to have at Marquette, where you're coaching the same kids for 4 straight years. I mean, that is a huge advantage to all these new programs that not a lot of people look at. But certainly in terms of, when I was talking to Poli, before the show and trying to get him, some information about Boston, I mean, the major focuses for the year is consistency across all facets of the program. Last year and 2 years in a row, they've lost big, heartbreaking games to Holy Cross to end their season, basically. And so how do they do that? 3 things that he mentioned that were really important for him. We're limiting turnovers, of course, because as a young program, that's what you're going to do. You're going to throw the ball away a lot. Clearing the ball, which is big. And then their offensive efficiency, maintaining that they continue to score goals as much as they can. In terms of the game plan going into this, you're relying on 2 major keys for BU. Those keys are Sam Talco at the X, who is a monster, an obvious All-American candidate, and you've got a monster in Cage and Carson Bannister. Those 2 are your leaders. They're basically the heart of that program. You could argue right now that BU isn't BU without Sam Talco getting you 60+% at the faceoff X, and Carson Bannister matching that up with a similar guy that you have a lot of respect for going into the Providence game. He also was 53%. These 2 guys, it's going to be a goalie off. And it's going to be determined. The game, ultimately, for me, is going to be determined based off of how Providence is going to handle Sam Talco at the X.
No question about it. That's exactly how I see it. I have a ton of respect for Carson Bannister in nets for BU. He was one of the best goalies in the country last year. Obviously, you know how I feel about Tate Boyce. I said the same thing about him. I see that as a wash. Yep. The major difference in the game is Sam Talco. And if Providence can keep this a low-scoring game and eliminate the advantage that we both feel BU will get at the X, that's going to be their chance to win. Not because they, aren't as athletic, not because they aren't as deep, but if you give Sam Talco 30 chances at the face-off X, and he goes out and wins 80%, which we feel he's going to, tough to beat a team when they're winning 24 face-offs and you're winning 6.
Right.
They're just going to wear you down.
Right.
And I think these teams are so much closer than I believe this final score will indicate. I think BU wins this game, and I think they win big. I think they win, something like 14-6 or something like that. And I feel like the major difference is going to be because they simply have the ball all the time.
The entire time.
Right. And that, to me, is going to be the difference. I just see Providence defense, even though they're very, very talented, return a ton of veterans and have a great goalie in the Cage. I just see them wearing down. And what may be an 8-6 game at half, I think BU runs away with it in the second half. So, I think we're in agreement there. So
I think one of the things too that Providence could do is throw a zone at them, and Providence is known to do that. And I think that if you're BU, you're a little concerned about that. I would be
smart, very smart.
And if you aren't going to see the ball that often, you can slow the game down playing defense, believe it or not. The problem is of course, like we always talk about, once you go down by 3-4 goals, you can't really slow the game down anymore. You got to pick up the pace and you got to be able to close the gap. But I think that one of the keys for BU going into this is managing what Providence throws at them defensively. Are they going to throw a zone at them? Are they going to slide fast? Are they going to get out and pressure hands? Are they going to make this the sloppiest game they possibly can, because it is early in the season, and force everyone, including maybe even a 10-man ride? Because while Carson Bannister can absolutely save the ball, can he clear the ball? And can he get it done? And I think that Providence is looking into this weekend with those certainly aspects in mind. But again, like you said, AT, this 100% comes down to Providence's ability to slow down Sam Talco. And know this too, Sam Talco can attack the cage.
Yeah.
And if you let him off and all of a sudden, boom, 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 you could literally shake hands as coaches, walk back to your bench, and you're down 3-0 because you just.
I know.
And it's scary to think that, but it happens.
I like your call in the zone, though. I think that will be, listen, if they run an effective zone, which is easier said than done in the beginning of the year.
Of course.
They're going to force BU to play together on the offensive end. And just seeing that stick mistakes are more prevalent in the beginning of the season than they are at the end, so is your ability to play together.
Right.
And, but that demand is only placed on BU's offense if Providence College is able to be well organized as a zone defense, which also takes time. So that's an interesting call, but I like it. I think that's something that will certainly keep the game closer if Providence can effectively run a zone defense. For sure.
Moving on to the next one on the docket, you got UNC, UMBC, AT. Your defending national champions, your boy Bresci comes into this one.
Yeah.
And we've already kind of battled this one out when we talk about the ACC rundown, but I'm not 100% sold on UNC's ability. Look, it's one of the hardest things on the planet to repeat as national champions. So that's a little unrealistic. Obviously, if they can do that, Bresci goes down as one of the best coaches of all time. But in terms of getting back to the Final Four, I'm a little worried. Talk to me about what UNC needs to focus on this year and then leading into this weekend against UMBC.
Look, UNC, I think they're going to win it again. Wow. Now, I hope Brown does.
I hope Dartmouth does.
I want UNC to win it. I think Joe Bresci will go down as one of the best coaches in the history of Division I men's lacrosse. Certainly the opportunity to continue, his quest for that kind of adulation is right there for the taking. If he's able to go back to back, that's something that is extremely rare. With that said, I think we look at what Carolina did in 2016, and I think you really look at two different teams. You've got the team in the regular season, which still had a great regular season.
And then you don't have UNC, you have Chris Cloutier in the postseason.
No, yeah, I mean, that's just a totally different. They stepped up in a major way where people would look at UNC and what they've done in the playoffs, the previous 6 years before last season, and you would say, look, here's a team that's done well in the regular season that hasn't gotten it done in the playoffs for whatever reason. Now, one of the reasons is they ran into Denver 3 years in a row, and that can certainly get in the way. With that said, they got it done last year in a big way and got a huge, gorilla off their back, right? Look, they were 12-6. And 3-1 in the ACC in 2016. They ended up winning the national championship, and they really took off in the playoffs. You look at their offense. The greatest thing that Carolina's offense has going for it is the return of David Metzbauer for his third year as their offensive coordinator. Listen, he's probably the best offensive mind in the sport. I would say Matt Brown is right there with him at Denver, but based on what's happened lately, you got to look at Dave Metzbauer as the best offensive coordinator in the country right now. Carolina scored over 13 goals per game. They shot 33%. They do lose Steve Pontrella, who was their, leading scorer last year in 2016, and in my opinion, got screwed out of some first-team All-American votes. I was shocked that he was only an HM. To me, he played like a first-team All-American last year. But as you know, they returned Chris Cloutier, 57 points, which seems like 50 of them were done in the playoffs last year.
I think it was legitimate. 41%. 41% of his goal output.
He's a proven goal scorer.
Right.
And came off a huge NCAA tournament, and that's when you want your players to step up and play their best. And to his credit, he certainly did. And I had doubted him over the course of April and May last year. But to me, the bigger player for Carolina on the offensive end is Luke Goldstock. He returns 53 points, and to me, he's the key. Pat Kelly seems to be the guy that's going to be stepping in at X, 27 goals, 11 assists last year. To me, that's the biggest position for them. Who's going to be the quarterback for this team, knowing that Luke Goldstock is a natural goal scorer? And to me, it's Pat Kelly. If Pat Kelly can run this offense and step in and make the jump from, 40 points in 1 year to 70 or 80 the next year, I think that this offense is going to be even scarier in 2017 than they were last year. Mike Tagliaferri comes back, 27 goals, 9 assists. To me, he played like a first-team All-American in a lot of the games last year, but he needs to stay healthy. Who's the next scoring midfielder for Carolina? That's another question. Who's the next guy? If Tags is their best, most dangerous midfielder, who's their next guy? Is it Peyton Kowinski? Is it one of these freshmen, Justin Anderson, Will Perry from Greenwich, both freshmen who I know are scheduled to play big-time minutes on game day? And to me, Carolina, while winning on offense last year, I think this is the year, and I think they're going to be better on offense this year than they were last year. But to me, I think this is the year where we look at Carolina and we see a team that wins on defense, right? They let up 10.5 goals a game last year. They return Austin Pafani, Jack Rowlett, Ryan McCree. They lose Zach Powers, who I think was their third defenseman last year. But in Pafani and Jack Rowlett, you have two legitimate first-team All-American defensemen. In my opinion, two of maybe the top 6-7 defensemen in the country on one defense. But who are going to be their short stick D-middies? We know they have recruited a ton of unbelievable athletes and unbelievable talent. But they lose Jake Matai and Shane Simpson, who were 3- and 4-year starters for them at a position which is arguably the most important position on the field. So that's going to be a question mark going into this year.
That's fair enough.
What's not a question mark for me is at the faceoff X. Stephen Kelly coming off of 58% last year. He does it all. He's the heart and soul of this team. He was 3-6 from the break. He would, in my opinion, be a first-line offensive midfielder if he wasn't so valuable to this team at the faceoff X. He had 126 ground balls. No one's tougher. No one's more proven than Stephen Kelly for this team. And then you look in the goal, you got Brian Balcom, started, I think, 17 of 18 games for them last year. Was huge down the stretch in the NCAA tournament, just like Chris Cloutier was on the offensive end. His season stats don't wow you, under 50% save percentage, but it was much higher than that in the playoffs when it mattered most, letting in just under 10 goals a game. I just think that Carolina is going to win on defense this year, not offense, but I think that their offense, with that said, will still be even better than they were last year. Man up, they scored 50% at man up, which is unbelievable. Stopped the other team's man up. Their man down was almost 70%. With the return of Dave Metzbauer, I just see this team as the team to beat in Division I lacrosse, and I hope for the sake of Joe Bresci and their returning players that they get it done again this year. I'd love to see Carolina win the national championship. If Brown can't, I'd love to see it be North Carolina. So this is going to be a scary team, RD.
Well, I don't disagree that UNC will generally be a scary team going into 2017. I just don't necessarily know if it's going to get the same performance. When we talk on the other side of the ball, the team they're going to face this year, brand new coach in Ryan Moran, coming from Loyola. He's got his hands full. Losing Nate Luens is obviously a huge hit to the program, but you got another kid named Max Maxwell, who's basically the jack of all trades attackman. He can do everything: feed, dodge, finish. He's got range. He's got all the things that you want in an attackman, which is a really nice thing to build on. The only problem is you're dealing with the fact that he's a senior. The other piece of this, and looking when we talk a little bit about their matchup against UNC, Jason Brewster, who's a sophomore captain on defense, is a really, really solid prospect. And when you look at what UNC has or doesn't have on the attack side, this could be an interesting matchup between, say, Brewster and Kelly, depending on how they want to do it, because as you already mentioned, Goldstock's not a guy that's going to quarterback this offense. One of the things I do think that obviously UMBC is going to struggle with, they've been, the head coach and talking to Ryan Moran, Jamison Kester and Ryan Moran have been, kind of going back and forth with Jake Brothers and Ryan Baker at the Face-Off X, trying to figure out the best fit there. And obviously, like everything else, and you know this, AT, better than anyone, sometimes it's paper, rock, scissors, and sometimes one guy's got it and sometimes the other guy got it. It's always a matchup deal. So
Right.
hopefully that, they can diffuse UNC at the Face-Off X. And then in terms of, goalie play, Ryan Moran is talking about 3 guys, Rustin Souter, Connor Gordon, and David Pasanek, as guys who could compete on game day. They've got 3 guys battling it out, and they're going to find out who's going to start on game day come probably Friday, which is it could be a really good thing or not a good thing, right? I mean, if you got 3 guys fighting it out, hopefully they're all 3 All-American type goalies. Or if you got 3 guys fighting it out because you're going to look at who can get 45% save percentage at the best, right?
Right. How does UMBC win the game?
UMBC has to diffuse the Face-Off X, that's for sure. And you got to figure they've got to put a lock on Kelly, because I'm assuming that's who's going to quarterback the offense. And if you put a lock on Kelly, Goldstock doesn't see the ball. Neither does Cloutier see the ball. But the other issue is Justin Anderson. Tagliaferri's great midfielder, but I really feel like Justin Anderson, he's like a 35-year-old freshman. He's not really a freshman. He went on his 2-year Mormon mission. This kid's coming into this Division I lacrosse. He's going to scare a lot of people. And so if they can diffuse UNC's midfield, I think that in the end, they've got a shot at this. But again, it comes back to their experience against UVA, Bucknell, and Loyola preseason in their scrimmages. They've seen some tough talent, so they've got enough experience to hopefully put together a good enough game plan, secure themselves at the Face-Off X, secure themselves in net to put up as much as they can against, obviously, the defending national champions.
Yeah, I don't agree with you. I mean, I should say I don't disagree with you. Look, they didn't play in 2016. This is a relatively new game. I think the key for North Carolina is exactly what you're saying. Stephen Kelly needs to do what Stephen Kelly has done since he's been in Chapel Hill. And he needs to dominate the X, which I believe he will do so. And Carolina needs to shoot well. It sounded like in reading about their scrimmage versus Navy this past weekend that they played really well and generated some super high quality shots, but didn't shoot particularly well. But seeing that they're coming off a season where they shot 33% last year, if they're winning 58% of the faceoffs or more, and they'll probably be more this year, and they're able to shoot 33%, I think that their offense is going to be in good shape. I think one sort of intangible or subjective area of the game, which I think is critical for North Carolina, is that with Ryan Moran stepping in as the new head coach for UMBC, that they are going to play hard and they're going to have a game plan, which if they execute with intensity, they are going to be in the game. And I think it's critical that North Carolina, coming off of winning the national championship, does not wait around before they get going. Because if they give UMBC life at the front end of this game, they're going to be in for a scary, scary game. 100%. So I think it's critical that North Carolina gets out to a fast start and is able to take the wind out of UMBC's sails. And if they're able to do that, and Stephen Kelly's consistent, I see Carolina being able to coast in this game. If they don't, this could be a game which could get scary down the stretch because Ryan Moran is going to have his guys ready to go, and his guys, have nothing to lose coming to this game. So let's see what happens with Carolina. Let's see who steps forward as their playmaker at X. Let's see who their second midfielder is. It might be Justin Anderson. I hear he is an absolute stud. So it's going to be fun to watch and follow the outcome of this game as well.
He's a freak. That's all for the show today. We will see you tomorrow with another breakdown of a couple more games leading into the first week of 2017. Exciting. Follow us on In Your Face Lax, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, of course, and of course YouTube and everything like that. We're all up on there. But in the meantime, we will see you tomorrow. Maximize your comfort.